Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's your boy Nolan Hawkeye Anthony here, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic week wherever you may be and however you may be listening. If you want unmatched excitement, nothing compares to the Iowa Hawkeyes, who have improved to 12 straight victories and have climbed up to number 2 in both the AP and coaches poll in the most recent ranking system. I believe this is going into week 6. What a story this is. This is the highest ranking the Iowa Hawkeyes have had since, I believe, 1985, well before when I was born. But these are excellent times. It is an excellent time to be an Iowa Hawkeye fan, especially the last 5 years. And we will be continuing to take a look at Iowa's opponents. And today we have the Purdue Boilermakers. But before I get into any of that, I want to mention going to 247hawkeye.com. And I really hope you guys consider hitting that subscribe button. It really means a lot when you guys do that. I want to show you guys something here. 86.2% of you who watch the content are not subscribed, meaning y'all are freeloading. And 13.8% of you who watch the videos are subscribed. I always say this, I am very grateful for the support that this channel gets. It's not about me, it's about you. This is a community. I don't think I'm, any more talented than anybody else. I don't think I'm bad at this, but I also don't think, anyways. So if you guys would consider helping out and subscribing, that would mean a lot. And if you don't think we've earned it, I hope you guys like and comment. I try and respond to all the comments and get up in there and chat with you guys. That's why I created this channel, is for us Iowa Hawkeye fans to communicate with each other and get together for live pregame shows and live postgame shows, which happen every Saturday before and directly after the Iowa Hawkeyes play. That will happen after Iowa plays Purdue. And last but not least, if you want to support the channel, I have a PayPal link in the description. And without further ado, let's get into this. Here we go. Look at this, guys. This is just absolutely incredible. There's Iowa right there, sitting at number 2 in the country behind Georgia. Oklahoma is right after the Hawkeyes. Iowa even got one first-place vote. And if you ask me, okay, based on who the Hawkeyes played and what they were at the time of beating and defeating teams like Indiana, Penn State, and Iowa State, they should be number 1. I don't think Georgia has beaten the same caliber teams at that moment in time of Iowa beating those teams. But I will say Georgia, I have no problem with them being number 1. I just think Iowa has played a little bit more of a worthy schedule. But in my eyes, a schedule is not the end-all, be-all. It definitely helps, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Let's take a look at the coaches poll here. Iowa is number 2 there as well. Georgia looks like they got all of the number 1 votes. And Cincinnati, Cincy, right behind Iowa, with Oklahoma rounding out the top 4. I said this last week, and I'm showing it again, but the Iowa Hawkeyes have a commanding 2-game lead over the entire Big Ten West. And with Purdue specifically, if Iowa beats them, they will have the head-to-head tiebreaker, and they will continue to have a 2-game lead. I believe, actually, it'd be a 3-game lead or a 2.5, because Purdue has only played 2 games up until this point, and it would be 3 games, and then Iowa would have played 4 in the conference, yada, yada, yada. So Iowa has a chance to widen the gap of their lead atop of the Big Ten West even more. To be honest, folks, Iowa is nearly all but guaranteed a spot in the Big Ten West championship. Minnesota is tied with Purdue for second. Wisconsin is third. Nebraska 1-3 in the Big Ten. Shocker, Nebraska still not good. Illinois and then Northwestern rounds it out. Here is the spread. Iowa opens as 12-point favorites. Originally, I saw them open as 11-point favorites. That's what I saw that was tweeted, but that's neither here nor there. They are big favorites in this game. So that is what it is. And the spread, the total is 44 points flat. Let's go ahead and read this here. I think this is a decent write-up. The Iowa Hawkeyes have risen to number 2 in the AP polls, their highest ranking since 1985. They'll look to maintain their spot when welcoming the Purdue Boilermakers to Kinnick for a Big Ten West showdown this Saturday. The game will kick off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC, so 2:30 Central, and I believe that is 12:30 my time, Pacific time. Purdue, 3 wins, 2 losses, 1-1 in the Big Ten, went into halftime of Saturday's game against Minnesota with the lead, but completely stalled in the second half to lose 20-13. The Boilermakers were completely shut out in the second half, turning in 2 punts, a turnover on downs, a missed field goal, and an interception. Quarterback Aiden O'Connell attempted 52 pass attempts, but only came away with 371 passing yards and 1 tub. This is Purdue's current or 2021 schedule. So up to this point in the season, of course, you know that. Early in the season, I had Purdue somewhat high in the Big Ten West. I still do, because the rest of the Big Ten West hasn't proven that there's no clear-cut number 2 behind the Iowa Hawkeyes. So I think you can pretty much make a case for anybody you want besides Illinois and Northwestern, of course. But Purdue shellacked UConn, which is, not amazing, but UConn is a AAC team. They lost to Notre Dame, not terribly, but they still did lose by double digits, which in hindsight is not great. Iowa would not lose in double digits to anybody. It just wouldn't happen. Anyways, Purdue beat Illinois by 4 points, and then Purdue lost to Minnesota, who I believe this is the same Minnesota team who lost to Bowling Green. Is that right? Oh, yes, that is right. They did lose to Bowling Green. So I guess what you could say I'm saying is that their loss to Minnesota does not look particularly good. It's not a good loss. Notre Dame was a decent loss, if there is one. Coming from my perspective, there has never been any level of sports, and I've played every level besides professionally, where losing actually means anything. It does not. But from a spectator point of view, losing to Notre Dame is not the worst thing in the world. But that Minnesota loss certainly does not look good, especially when Purdue had the lead. Your favorite time, folks, PFF grades. By the way, it does seem like you guys do enjoy me showing you guys the Pro Football Focus grades, even if you don't agree with all of them. Here's Spencer Petras at 23rd. He dropped down a little bit after the game against Penn State. And again, I think he played fine against Penn State. I gave him a B+ grade. He had 2 touchdown passes. Yes, he did have the interception. Yes, it was not a perfect throw, but Reganey could have come down with it. There's the old saying, if it hits your hands, you need to catch it. But the game he played was not spectacular either. He did what he needed to do, and Iowa won. By the way, folks, as I said last week, Spencer Petras is on his way to becoming the winningest Iowa quarterback. He has currently the best win percentage for any Iowa quarterback in history. So say what you want about Spencer Petras, but this guy, he wins football games, folks. He, at this point, I believe he's 12-2 as a starter. Here are his grades. He has an 87.3 offensive grade, which is well above average. He has an 83.4 pass grade and a 77.4 run grade. Yeah, this is a significant step up from last year, in which he was graded 58.5. Here we have Iowa's running backs and their grades. Tyler Goodson still not in the top 100. He is ranked 171st with an very average grade, offensive grade of 69.6. And sadly, Ivory Kelly Martin is not much better with a grade of 55.6 behind him as well. Here we have Iowa's wide receivers, wideouts. Nico Reganey checks in at 404th with a grade of 62.3. Charlie Jones is graded at 461 with an overall offensive grade of 60.2. And Tyrone Tracy checks in as the 603rd best wide receiver. Folks, Iowa does not have one wide receiver in the amount of snaps needed in order to be ranked in anything. But if we take off the minimum snap count, here are the other wide receivers right here. Arland Bruce is Iowa's highest graded receiver with a grade of 69.1. Keegan Johnson has a grade of 67.9. And Jackson Ritter has a grade of 65.4. As I said last week, it's kind of like how it was with Iowa's basketball team. Last year, Iowa's basketball team had Luka Garza and Joe Wieskamp. Everybody else was about the same. And on any given game, you could interchange any of them besides Luka Garza and Joe Wieskamp and be just fine. That's Iowa's wide receiver group. No one is elite. No one has separated themselves to the point where they cannot come off the field. They are all roughly about the same, which is average with an ability to make a play here or there. And from what I have seen, it is from Keegan Johnson and Arland Bruce with their big play ability. They simply have done too much in a limited amount of snaps, and the other guys have done too little to not average out the snaps amongst the wide receivers. They need to go at this collectively, and that's what they've been doing. Iowa has been putting a lot of bodies in there at the wide receiver spot. Perhaps Nico Reganey or Tyrone Tracy will break out here soon, but I am not optimistic. Nico Reganey did have a decent game against Penn State with a huge touchdown catch. But folks, the answer at wide receiver is Keegan Johnson and Arland Bruce. And Iowa's pass game will remain roughly the same until those guys are ready to get more snaps and to be more influential on this Iowa Hawkeye offense. Here is the tight end grades. Sam Laporta is graded as the 72nd best tight end in the country, while Luke Lachey, aka Luke Lackey, is graded as the 157th best tight end. They both have a grade of 66.1 and 58.1, respectively. Sam Laporta had a quiet game against Penn State. He had the early drop in the game, but he did take quite a hit, and I do think that bothered him. He seemed to be a little tentative as the game went on after that hit. But Iowa will need Sam Laporta and, yes, Luke Lackey to step up here because in the coming weeks, because the bottom line is, unless Arlen Bruce and Keegan Johnson take a massive step forward, the offense is not, or excuse me, the passing offense is not going to take the jump it is capable of until these tight ends become what they are capable of, which is top tight ends in the Big Ten. Because it's not going to happen with the wide receivers. So Sam Laporta is going to have to get this done. Look at Tyler Linderbaum, folks, graded as the #1 center, and it's not even close. He has a grade of a 92.2. The closest guy behind him has a grade of an 81.5. It's not even close. So excellent job by Tyler Linderbaum. Let's look at the guards for the Iowa Hawkeyes and see how they are graded. Connor Colby is graded as the 4th best guard in the country. He has a grade of an 83.4. Justin Britt is graded as the 8th best guard in the country. And Cody Ince checks in at 21st with a grade of 76.9. Here are Iowa's offensive tackles. This is, folks, this is the problem on the offensive line. It is the offensive tackles. It is the outside. By the way, I did not say this at the beginning. If you're a Purdue fan, I hope it's obvious by now that I am indeed an Iowa Hawkeye fan. I will try and be fair. I'll show some Purdue players' grades, and I will be very honest with the team stats that I show. But after that, this is geared towards Iowa. Just fair warning. Matt Hankins and Riley Moss continue to dominate both respectively in the top 10 in the country at their position. Riley Moss is graded as the 7th best cornerback with an overall grade of 85.4. And Matt Hankins has a defensive grade of a 90 and is the 2nd best corner in the entire country. Obviously, Riley Moss looked a little shaken up last week against Penn State. He left the game early, but Kirk Ferentz did say that he was optimistic about Riley Moss. With that being said, and I don't want Riley Moss to be out, but if there is a position Iowa can afford a week or two without their starting corner, and let's be honest, it would probably only be 1 week as Iowa has a bye week after this Purdue game, it would be the cornerback position. Terry Roberts would be the likely replacement, and I feel good about him in general. Purdue is a great passing offense. They have had a great passing attack in the past, but I do feel confident about Iowa's ability, and more specifically, if Terry Roberts has to go, for Terry Roberts to step up to the task and hit a homer. Here are Iowa's linebackers. Justin Jacobs continues to dominate. He is the 12th best linebacker in the country with a grade of 81.7. Jack Campbell is the 24th best linebacker in the country with a grade of 78.2. And Seth Benson rounds it out as the 161st best linebacker with a grade of 66.5. You know, I guess I could have done this from the beginning, and I will incorporate it from this point onward with the video. Here are Purdue's linebackers and their grade as well. They have the 146th best linebacker, 245th, and 350th best linebackers in the country. So the linebacker position looks like a question mark for the Purdue Boilermakers at best. I went back to look at the corners as well, and Purdue's corners are graded at 429th, and 560. So as an Iowa fan, I'm just being honest. If these are accurate, okay, or close to being accurate, both the linebacker and cornerback groups look like a massive issue for the Purdue Boilermakers. Massive. Here are the defensive tackles or interior defenders for both Purdue and Iowa. Purdue has a pretty good D tackle in Branson Dean. He is the 39th best interior defender. Noah Shannon is 110th. Lucas Van Ness is 209. Logan Lee, 288. For Purdue, they have the 362nd and the 375th best D tackles. So they have a pretty good D tackle in Branson Lee, but their other two are pretty dang low on the list here. And last but not least, y'all, here are the edge rushers. George Karlaftis looks pretty dang good, graded as the 18th best defensive end in the entire country with a grade of 85.2. Zach Van Volkenberg is 35th. Joe Evans, 210th. Deontay Craig, 251st. You guys can see the grades yourselves. I will go ahead and zoom them in for you guys so you guys can see them a little bit better. DeMarcus Mitchell for Purdue is 297. John Wagner is 447th. That is pretty low for John Wagner. Hopefully John Wagner for the Iowa Hawkeyes can improve. If not, I envision Deontay Craig continuing to nip on John Wagner's heels and the best man winning. So John Wagner is going to have to pick up his game a little bit. And last but not, well, I already said that, Kydron Jenkins for Purdue rounds out the group at 478. Let's see if I can look at the wide receivers for Purdue, just so people don't claim that I am being unfair or anything like that. So here's Purdue's wide receivers. David Bell is an excellent target. He's the 28th best wide receiver, and Milton Wright is 286th. Jackson Anthrop is 414th, and Brock Thompson 425th. Let's see when we put Iowa in there. The only guy who is graded up in the mix of the Purdue wide receivers is Nico Reganey. That's it. Charlie Jones and Tyrone Tracy are fairly low down the list. So Purdue definitely has an advantage at the wide receiver position. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and look at the team stats and compare Iowa and Purdue for the team stats. Here is total defense. Iowa is 8th in the country in total defense. And Purdue, I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised. They have the 15th best defense in the country as far as total defense goes. Not bad. And Purdue, let's see here. Purdue gives up 299.6 yards per game, giving up 4.83 yards per play. I'll be honest, I am pleasantly surprised about Purdue's defense. They are 8th in scoring defense, and Iowa is 4th. So this is good news. I don't know how big of a deal this is in a broader scale, but I am pleasantly surprised by Purdue's so far highly ranked defense. Purdue has the 45th best rushing defense. You guys can see them right here. They give up 3.66 yards a rush, and they give up 124.4 yards a game. Iowa checks in at number 11, giving up, let's see here, 2.75 yards per rush and 90.3 yards a game. Here is the turnover margin. Iowa is number 1 in the country. They average, I think they have a plus 15 margin. That is absolutely incredible. And that is a huge reason for Iowa's success so far this season. things were not adding up until now. Looking for Purdue, because they had an excellent defense, and I'm like, well, how are they not doing much better? And here it is. Turnover margin, they are 119th in the country with a minus 5 turnover margin, and that'll get you beat. That will get you beat. Here are the scoring offensive rankings. Iowa is tied for 49th, and they averaged 31.5 points per game on the offensive end. Here's Purdue, number 102 in scoring offense. It's strange because Purdue, from what I understood, they were an excellent offensive team, but it looks like this year it's the defense that is doing a lot better. And the Purdue offense is only putting up 23.6 points a game. That, my friends, definitely needs to improve. In this day and age, you should, at the very least, average 27 points per game offensively. And last but not least, y'all, here is ESPN's Power Index grades or whatever, with some side-by-side analysis of the players. The ESPN gives Iowa an 81.9% chance of winning this football game. And I got to say, I agree. Plummer for Purdue is 82 for 118 for 840 yards and 7 tubs. Spencer Petras has 1,138 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 2 INTs. On the ground, Doru for Purdue has 221 yards and 1 tub on the ground, compared to Tyler Teagood and his 518 yards. By the way, I do expect Tyler Goodson to hit a point this year similar to what we saw last year. We haven't quite seen it yet, and it will get here. He is so close to breaking off those massive runs. He just hasn't been quite able to do it yet consistently, and I do expect that to pick up here soon. Sam Laporta is Iowa's leading receiver with 271 yards and 2 tubs. David Bell has 439 yards receiving. Here are the spreads, the money line, 12.5 point favorites for the Hawkeyes. All right, y'all, I'm going to give you guys my evaluation, analysis, and prediction here. And in the background, I have the latest crystal ball predictions for 5-star in-state safety Xavier Nwanta and running back Caleb Johnson out of Ohio, who Iowa was very high on early on, but he committed to Cal. Fast forward, Iowa being excellent, and here we are. Listen, y'all, this game comes down to the same old with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Pound the rock, and play good defense and special teams. It's that simple. Torrey Taylor and Caleb Shudak have been absolutely gargantuan in what they've been able to do. And they are the leaders in the entire country, if not the Big Ten, at their respective positions. Iowa's defense continues to ball out. Hopefully Riley Moss is fine. But I'm hoping, because for the past 2 weeks or a couple weeks, I have been saying that I expect Iowa's offense to put it all together. And we've seen certain aspects from the offense here and there, but we haven't seen it all come fully together. And I do expect it to happen for the simple reason that Iowa has the players to make it happen. And so I think Spencer Petras, as long as he continues to play cool and calm and collected, Iowa will be fine right there, just fine. And ultimately, we all know it's up to Iowa setting up the run game in order to set up the pass game. That's what it's all about. Defensively, if there's one thing that I'm looking for, it would be the defensive line to continue to develop. The defensive line is very young. And that is a position that will continue to improve as the year goes on for Iowa and improve the Hawkeyes. Just like the offensive line is young for the Hawkeyes, and as long as that position group improves, Iowa will improve. It's the same thing for the defensive line. So hopefully they can improve. I'll be honest, guys, I feel very good about this game. Purdue has given Iowa problems in the past, but I don't think Iowa is going to overlook this game for the simple fact that this game is at Kinnick. Purdue has given Iowa too many headaches before. But simply put, I don't think Purdue has enough to beat this Iowa Hawkeye team. Yes, Purdue's defense looked a little bit better than what I expected, but their offense looks absolutely abysmal, and that is just not a good recipe against a top 5 defense in the Iowa Hawkeyes. So I am going with the Iowa Hawkeyes winning this game 31 to, let's go 18, 31 to 18. I think this will be a double-digit victory for the Iowa Hawkeyes. All right, y'all. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really means a lot when you guys do that. I want to show you guys this again. 86.2% of you guys who watch the videos are not subscribed. Don't be a freeloader. No, I'm kidding. It's all good either way, but I did want to show you guys this. I really do hope you guys consider subscribing. I know when I go on YouTube, when somebody says this, I want them to earn my subscription. I get it. I do. So all I could say in trying to convince you to subscribe to this channel is you'd be helping out an Iowa fan who's trying to build an Iowa Hawkeye community. And that's not so bad, is it? So, but if you don't think I've earned it, go ahead and like and comment. I try and get to all your guys' comments regardless of being subscribed or not. Be sure to go to 247hawkeye.com. And if you want to support the channel, I will put my PayPal link in the description. You guys can go in there and give a little donation. That is always much appreciated. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. And facts or feelings, your feelings don't matter. Love y'all. Go Hawks. Bye.